Freo taking on Collingwood. Now in the pre-season, we would have said Freo, Pies, this one's going to be a blockbuster, but Freo so far just have not been able to bring much to the competition so far. But the Pies with a raft of outs, are you giving the Dockers a chance here?
Yeah, I give them a chance. It feels like a bit of a lose-lose for Freo. I think they're expected to win this, especially with their backs up against the wall. Collingwood are missing some key players. There's not much pressure on them to perform, so I am going with Freo, especially at home, but there's a lot on the line for them.
I disagree. I see this as a good game of football purely for the fact that Fremantle are going to be challenged. Collingwood leave 4 players out. Fremantle have to win, so it could be a car crash for Fremantle, or they get the job done. Seeing how Collingwood go away from home, they don't normally play away from home, but those odds fluctuations. $2.40 earlier on in the week Fremantle started, into $1.80 yesterday, now back to that $1.94. So fair bit of money on Fremantle once the teams came out.
Certainly was. Darcy Cameron, you spooked him for a couple of weeks in different environments and you're keen again here.
Yeah, just trying to find a little bit of value in this one. So Freo, they ranked 17th against disposals to the ruckman, so second worst in the competition for giving up disposals to the opposition ruck. Darcy Cameron, 3 of his last 5, he's cleared 20 plus. So for a little bit of value, I like him for 20 plus in this one. It is a good price.
Very good price. Now, you've been on a heater with high disposals and you're going back to the well.
Yeah, I am. Caleb Sarong was poor last week. Collingwood don't tag, so Caleb Sarong happy to have him at 30 plus, good price.
Yeah, Andy Brayshaw, 30 plus as well. 4 of his last 5, 30 plus, he's cleared that.
And Lipinski, 20 plus, 4 of his last 5, he's cleared it. It's just on his average, so I expect him to get it again.
Certainly should be a better game than expected as we talk that one through. You can follow everybody here right on the feed. Zach Toohey, Kate McCarthy and Nathan Brown, all the bets right there on the feed. Enjoy this game. Hello and welcome to In the Back Pocket, a massive round of footy ahead. Zach, Kate and Nathan Brown. Now, there's been a few iterations of Nathan Brown. Before we crack into the footy stuff, we've had, what has it been? Pouches Brown.
Italian Brown.
Bought the pizza oven. Italian Brown. We haven't yet seen Irish Brown, which I'm probably looking forward to. It should hit in a couple of months. But right now...
Well, I did 3 tours of Ireland for Australia.
I forgot that.
Highest
You have been
point
Irish
scorer
Brown.
of all
So
time.
Irish Brown's on there as well.
Yeah.
Arrogant Brown, we've got him as well.
He's every week.
Gloating Brown, we've got that as well. Camping
Punchy
Brown. Punching Brown, yeah, sorry, Kane. Camping Brown now hits.
Yeah, going camping next week. Can't wait for it. Never really been camping before. I bought all the gear, all the latest gear. Probably not going to use any of it, but I reckon I'm going to be a great Bear Grylls impersonator.
Is there going to be any shameless sponsorship? Is any of the items that
Absolutely, I'm going to try and
get
get them all for free. And one thing I can't do is start a fire. You know, they get the metal and they light the flint. I can't. Oh, you can't start a fire.
I lived in the jungle for a month, I have you know.
Okay, before
I know, it's still your logo on your Instagram.
before you two start fighting, let's have a look at how we as a group did last week with the winners.
The value is there, and he does take a lot of the kick out. So Wanganeen Miller at 25 plus, best bet.
I don't put a huge amount of weight into Carlton's first 2 wins of the season, so I would probably still lean towards Adelaide, being that it's at Adelaide over.
I'm going to be the odd one out here. I think Geelong get this done. Purely bounce back factor from last week. I think Geelong get up in this one.
And the Cats hold on in a modern day classic.
Bailey-Dale, 25 plus. Mars Stadium.
I'm going Lockie Ash. I like him to cover his disposal line, which is 27.5.
The last 40 games, Lockie Whitfield averages 30.8 disposals per game. Within those 40, he's played Sydney 4 times and he averages 21.75. So Jordon has gone to him, and I will back history until history changes. And I'm going to back the unders for Lockie Whitfield. I'm happy to go 25 again for Max Gawn at a big price, $3. I gave you Dane Zorko last week, 30 plus. Didn't get in the best winners, obviously. So, but I'm expecting if Max Gawn gets 25 plus this week, that it's in the winners' tips next week.
Max Gawn, as the kick is true. It has been a monumental performance.
You would have been happy with your $1.50 winner in there.
There was a couple that didn't make the edit, and don't you start, because you've had one good one this year.
Yeah, there's a late protest on you because it was Matt Gawn that you actually did, but also... All Zach had to do was mention the team's name and they counted as a tip. You said the Crows are playing Carlton.
Your MO, and it hasn't worked for you yet.
I just, as a host, I prefer to leave myself out of this big gloating and saying how
crack on.
I'm sure I had some...
Tell us that someone got a head-to-head bet right and it wasn't him.
Yeah, it was a horrid week for me. But let's jump into the report cards here. St Kilda taking on Carlton. Watchability, Brownie.
Yeah, B plus for this one. I can't wait. So you got a lower Carlton midfielders, you got St Kilda half-back flankers, so there's a fair bit to punt on.
For me, this one is the TDK Cup because, Zach, you're probably one to ask on this one. De Koning, right now he's coming into free agency and there's this big offer from St Kilda. If they put an absolute beating on the Saints, does that, in De Koning's mind, sort of push him more to, you know what, this is where I want to be. I want to be in a winning group. I don't like the direction they're heading. But if the Saints look very good and beat Carlton, does it potentially just flick a switch saying, hey, maybe there's going to be some success over there and it's worth the money?
I would hope that when he's making a decision of this magnitude, he's not going to base it on any 4 or 5 week win. No, and certainly not on one night.
What about the 1.7 million?
So he could either stay where he is and earn pretty good money and not have huge success, or go over there and earn huge money and also not have great success. So you're saying
he's not going to make a decision at half-time in this game? I feel he wants him to.
See them running out with a piece of paper and a pen.
Well, let's give them a preview of how the Saints have been playing right now, because they are playing sort of a little bit over expectation, Kate.
Yeah, they've been, I think last week was clearly a bounce-back game. They were really poor the week before and there was no denying that. And sort of everything in Ross Lyon's history as a coach says that the next week they're going to bounce back, and they did just that. And I think some people have taken a little bit away from the Saints in this game because Freo was so poor, but credit where it's due. They took away Freo's ball movement, they kicked the goals they needed to themselves, and they were able to really fight through some adversity with what had happened in the weeks prior and put a really good performance together.
You're always going to win when Cooper Sharma starts looking like Wayne Carey mid-game. He played a great game, but let's get into who's hot and who's not, because there's been plenty of players from these two sides. Who's hot and who's not? Wanganeen Millera, have a look at that. 7 of his last 8 games at 25 plus. This week, $1.59. Put him in your same game multis. George Hewitt, gentleman George Hewitt. He's had been bigger prices than that. It's just that he's been so good at 25 plus. And Paddy Cripps is not. 3 of his last 8 games, but have a look at the price. Still $1.39. So if you're going to compare the pair, who are you going to back this week out of Nasiah Wanganeen Millera? Look at those disposals on the left. Look at the disposals on the right. Cripps spending more time forward. $1.59 compared to $1.39. You'd be taking Nasiah every day of the week.
Just putting those stats up, we hear a lot about Nasiah Wanganeen Millera throughout the year, but putting him against a bona fide star there in Cripps, who is having himself a solid season, really puts him up there as one of the top guys in the game.
Well, you're talking about the money that they're offering Tom De Koning. I would go and offer that to Wanganeen Millera. For me, that's a player that's at the club. If you can get his signature, it shows that he wants to stay. He wants to stay within that culture. He likes the way they're headed. That makes other players that are considering that as an option say, well, something's going right there. He's enjoying his footy. He's playing great footy. I'd be chasing him with that money. I wouldn't be chasing TDK. They've got Rowan Marshall, who's respectable. I understand the prospect of Tom De Koning, but if you keep Nasiah Wanganeen Millera, for me, that says more about your club than getting Tom De Koning across.
Yeah, there's been clubs historically that have struggled to attract big name players, but it can be just as damning for teams when they get this superstar coming through their own ranks and then lose them. It just sets you back years. He has to be kept.
Have we jumped the gun on Carlton? Hoyney really talked us in. We said that the sleeping giant has awoken. Have we been brought back down to earth, Zach?
Yeah, they're remarkably untrustworthy as a team at the minute, and there's a whole host of teams that probably fall into that category. I still think their best is very good, but you just can't bank on them performing on any given week. And I think with this game being at the G, I think it dramatically increases the likelihood of them getting a result against St Kilda. If it was at Marvel, I think you'd have a real choice to make.
Happy to give them a mulligan for last week. Adelaide, travelling to Adelaide, it was quite warm over there. They looked flat. They looked flat in the game and they just had no answers to Adelaide's run and carry. They were too slick. They made Carlton look old. But outside that, Carlton have been pretty good the last 4 to 5 weeks, so I'm not going to throw them out yet. I think there's 2 sides outside the 8 at the moment, Carlton and Sydney, that still can make the 8.
I think Saints' ability to defend the G, as you said, Zach, is vastly different to Saints' ability to defend Marvel. So I think that absolutely turns this into the Blues' favour.
On that topic of outside of the 8, you mentioned that it's just really the Swans and Carlton. They're the only 2 teams right now outside of that top 8 that you can really see making a solid
Fremantle
push.
in 9th. So I think Fremantle should make the finals, judging on what they have at their disposal. They're a talented list. They don't want for anything midfield, back or forward. So I'm happy that Fremantle should make it. The other 2 are Sydney and Carlton for me.
Perfect. Best bets. Let's get in these ones. You're jumping back on the Nasiah Wanganeen Millera.
Had him last week for best bet. Going to have him again this week. And as I always say, until history changes, I'm going to back history.
First, if stealing bets...
That quote changes every time someone rolls it out.
If stealing bets wasn't enough, we're now stealing quotes as well from someone sitting directly next to him. Kate, where are you from?
I like Mateus Philippou in this one. Yes, this is his first game back for the season. He was supposed to play last week. He was a late out as he got a corky right up until sort of the last training session of the week. He's put in a body of work. He was the talk of the town coming into the season for the Saints. I expect him to play some time forward, though. I don't think he'll play 100% midfield like we were expecting from him. So I like him for an anytime goal.
Yeah, I've got Harry Mackay. I think there's some question marks over Charlie's fitness this week, so I'm looking at Harry Mackay. If Charlie doesn't play, you know he's going to get much more opportunity to be the guy in the forward line. Even if Charlie does play, you know he's going to get the second string key back, which improves his odds. I don't even mind looking towards the 3+ goal for this one, because I expect Carlton at the MCG to feed their forwards.
I asked you a question about Ross Lyon. So 2 weeks in a row, St Kilda pretty ordinary. They just got absolutely whitewashed by the Western Bulldogs. Couldn't put any defence on at all. Ross Lyon masterclass last week against Fremantle Dockers. Does he look at that and go, can the same thing be replicated against the Carlton side?
Well, that would be the message. It would be everything we did this week put us in this position. We absolutely dominated that game. That's the standard from now. And we've spoken a lot about both of these teams being so inconsistent. And when you find that and you find that standard, you need to be able to replicate it when your back isn't against the wall, and that's what good teams do. So it is really interesting to see how they come into this one, and if they elicit the same amount of pressure, roll out a similar game plan, and it's able to be executed 2 weeks in a row and at the MCG. Big test for the Saints. Certainly
a massive test. I'm taking in the head-to-head as we go to the multi here and have a look. Of course, Wanganeen Miller, Matthias Philippou, Harry Mackay, 2+, always a dangerous one. You can't even move that to 3+ if you want. I'm taking St Kilda head-to-head. Remember, you can catch that on the feed or even any of the individual bets. Welcome in the back pocket. 3 of the best in the business getting ready to break down a massive Saturday of football. And I'll tell you what, Melbourne and the Hawks had it written here on the rundown. It's been put in the wood chipper.
Go on.
They reckon
No
not
interest.
a good enough game. No interest, zero interest, not a good enough game. So we're skipping right forward to Essendon and Sydney, who Sydney, the $4.50 before last round to make the finals, we're into $2.75 now. A win here, they will further and further push, and we should be a good chance to make the finals.
They were very impressive last week. I thought you were great last week too with your Swans. Look, there's 2 teams. I'm at Browny currently outside the 8. It's the Blues and the Swans that I still think have a chance of getting it. And when it comes to these 2 teams, I just still have much more belief in Sydney, and I think their best is significantly better than Essendon's right at this point. I'm happy to go with the Swans.
Certainly hope you're right. Kate, you've got written here James Jordan's victims. What are you referring to?
Yes, well, let's have a look at his rap sheet, because these are the victims that he has taken this season. There's a small portion of it. We don't like skewing the statistics, so I will verbal. Nick Dacos did have over his season average when he played them, but Nick Dacos is proving to be fairly hard to keep away from the footy. So let's go back to round 23, 2024, and Zach Merritt in this game, or coming up to this game, his average in 2024 was 28.2. He kept him to 17 in this game. Bear Jordon, but I'm posing a new one. We've got Law and Order. I've got Jord and Order. I think he is taking many victims as the season goes on, and that gets me to Zach Merritt's average this season, 31.3 so far. I think James Jordon or Jordan Order or Bear Jordon keeps him under that. 27.5 is his disposal line. I am confident to say he will go under that.
It's the only player they can go to. I think they go to Merritt. Won the game for him last week, but I love that nickname. That is good. That's I don't know whether it's an upgrade on Bear Jordon, because I came up with that nickname, but I must admit I do like it.
There's a place for both, I think.
We're going to update the nickname graphic next week, and Bear Jordon is gone, and it is now Jord and Order.
What else can we update?
I'll tell you what, let's update this game. The Gold Coast Suns taking on the Western Bulldogs. The watchability, puntability for this one, you kick us off, Brownie.
I'm going with an A. I think there's so many disposals on offer in this game. It is an A for me.
I'm going the A as well. And you know what I'm saying? I think the Dogs are going to do all right up there, because Dogs don't sweat. They're a very good football team at the moment. And, you know, it's actually true. The Dogs do not sweat. There's no animal, I believe.
Mr. Husky himself told us over there. He thinks he doesn't sweat because he gets sweaty palms and he blows on them like this all the time. He does think he sweats. And he thinks he's like a husky.
I made the mistake of trying to educate my co-workers. So huskies regulate their heat by perspiring through their paws, as I do. It's called concurrent heat exchange system from memory. So it's just an interesting fact I thought I'd share.
It is very. What about the conditions in Darwin? There's going to be no Huskies taking part in this game, so we're going to have to talk real people here. The effect on the punting, it is hot, it is humid, it is sweaty.
It is. It's going to be a low-scoring game, being as humid as what it is. But there's going to be a lot of disposals on offer in this game to punt on. So, look, rank 3 and rank 2, both these sides. So there's a lot of disposals. So I think you look at players like a Bailey Dale for 25+. John Noble's been great, takes the kick-outs. Ed Richards as well. Touk Miller's got a fantastic record at TIO Stadium. So go back, have a look at the games that have recently been played there, last 4 or 5, and see what sort of players have done well. It is a lot of inside midfields. Mids and halfback flankers.
Kate, the Bulldogs are flying at the moment. They've got a lot of avenues towards goal inside 50. Who are you zoning in on?
Yeah, well, they've been trying to find that replacement for Sam Darcy. Obviously, he's irreplaceable, but the player they tried down there was Buku Khamis on the weekend against Port, and he was their most targeted player inside forward 50. So he was getting further up the ground as well. So I think Mac Andrew gets that matchup. I think Sam Collins stays closer to home on Aaron Norton, who also had 8 targets. So Buku Khamis is the one that I like. $2+$2.95. I think that is a good bet. We know Mac Andrew likes to be a little bit more attacking, so he likes to be that intercept defender, tends to give up some goals the other way. So I think Buku Khamis is the one that you can target inside forward 50 for the Dogs.
It's quite a jump as well from any time to 2+. There's certainly some value in there. The Premiership odds for the Dogs, can I tempt you into saying whether they will win it or lose it this early?
I think if you are along the same lines that I am at the moment, that they are a very good chance at winning. I think now is the time to place your bet on them winning the Premiership, because if they go up to Darwin and they beat the Gold Coast Suns, who are very formidable at TIO Stadium, I think those odds really start to narrow in, because people will start to think, yeah, they are the real deal. So I think if you want to get on the Bulldogs for the Premiership, act now or forever hold the $9.
And I don't think the Gold Coast are confirmed as final starters yet. I'd love to see them win this game. Not love to see them win, but for them to play finals, I need some sort of theory behind the fact they can beat good sides. They beat Adelaide up there. That's about the only one they've taken at the moment. Their game against Brisbane last week was pretty poor.
Well, the Sportsbet $100,000 putting challenge goes to Morphettville on the weekend, but the second biggest event happening in Adelaide is the Throwdown. Zach, were you impressed by the Crows last week?
Yeah, they were excellent last week. They won just about every key area you'd want to win. Centre clearances, they had a heap more of the footy and were more efficient, which is a great combination. The only stat they lost was tackles, which makes perfect sense given how the game played out. So it didn't tell me anything about the Crows I didn't already know, which is that they're very good when they're good. Carlton, we know, are extremely inconsistent. So I would like to see it for a little bit longer from the Crows, but they're in that sweet spot at 5 and 3 where a couple other handy teams are sitting.
Sorry, is it the Showdown or the Throwdown?
Well, in basketball, it's the Throwdown as well.
So the winner will get the Throwdown medal in this one.
Yeah, the winner will get to face the South East Melbourne Phoenix and John Cain Arena the next week in this one. But I know you guys stay tuned to social media. Maybe not you because you complain about it, TikTok and whatnot. But Ken Hinkley this week, he's always under a bit of pressure, but he looks like he just let it out at one of the journos.
How you going, Rich? Hold it on slide. Yeah, look at
He's a good man, Rooch, too. But don't bag me for... I don't have TikTok, and you're sending all these TikToks through which I can't open.
Well, you know what you can do? You can download the app, Grandpa. Yeah.
I'm not that old.
Wouldn't that just solve a little bit on this one? What about it? You had your nice compare the pair in the previous segment. Have you got another one for us here in this game?
I certainly do. Let's get into the compare the pair. And it is 2 young stars. Jason Horne-Francis, $1.16 at 20+. Yes, he's had it the last 5, but Isaac Rankin's touches are just as good. He's only missed out on one occasion, which has been 19, but you're getting $1.40 for one, $1.16 for the other. So I'm taking Isaac Rankin every day of the week.
This is why he doesn't have TikTok, because he spends his time finding little nuggets like this for all of us, comparing the pair and finding us the best odds. Got your back, Browny.
Spends his time finding cheap sponsorship deals online. That's what it seems. And you're having an impact on our man Zach Tui, who's now rocked up with a new coffee machine.
I do like free things.
Speaking of things you like,
Husky.
Horne-Francis in a big game. I always think he steps up. He steps up in big moments.
What are you basing that on?
From watching football. Every time there's a big Port Adelaide game, he seems to pop out, and whether it's a strong clearance, there's an X-factor moment.
We'll ask Daniel Hoyney a bit later.
Well, there certainly is. There's an X-factor moment, I think, from Horne-Francis every time we get a big game. Are you buying what I'm selling here, which you usually don't?
No, I'm not. I agree. I kind of agree with what you're saying, but as a matter of principle, I disagree. His big moments stand out. He's extraordinarily powerful. So when he's having a good game, it is so obvious for the world to see. But I'm with Browny. I'll just wait to see what Hoyney has to say. Hoyney.
Well, Brownie, I'm no longer making eye contact with you, but can you give us your best bet in this one?
It's Adam Treloar at 30 plus. He's the type of player when it is a little bit wet and slippery up there in Darwin, the ball just slips out. He's a very good outside the ring player.
Thanks, Buffett. Kate?
Zach Merritt under that disposal line of 27.5.
And Sydney in that 1 to 39 range, I think, is a good price.
I'm still making eye contact with you, but I'll tell you
Wait
what.
for Hoyney.
Soon I'm just going to have Kate, but I'm going to have one more friend on this panel. That's going to be Daniel Hoyney, because champion data, the puppet master of the entire league. Whatever you hear here, you're going to hear later on elsewhere. Daniel Hoyney.
Horny, 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 horny.
Welcome in Daniel Hoyney from Champion Data, the only man on earth, well maybe outside David King, that needs a separate security team a la the Brownlow medal votes to bring in his laptop. Welcome in.
Yeah, no, pleasure to be here, guys. The laptop is crucial. If it goes down over any day of the week, let alone over the weekend, we're in all sorts.
But you know the thing with Kingy's laptop is it's everything that Hoyney's laptop is. So Hoyney stuff gets transferred to Kingy's and then Kingy reads it out. And did you know that Joey Montagna is not allowed to have a laptop? He's the only one allowed to have a laptop on the desk of their show.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just sort of behind-the-scenes stuff you need. There we go, barred at
Laptop
all.
mafias.
There we go, the puppet master, King. Anything you hear now on a Thursday is going to be spoken about over the weekend, so we get it first here. Let's chat Essendon. Archie Perkins in particular, having himself a good year. Essendon probably playing better overall than a lot of people expected.
Yeah, and Archie Perkins is going quite well playing across that half-forward role. A couple of years ago, they tried to get him more through the midfield and some midfield minutes, but this year he's playing permanently inside forward 50 and he finds himself rated inside the top 60 players across the competition. And it's what he's doing at the moment with ball in hand that's really separating him. He's accurate in front of goal, he's creative around the ground. And his overall profile this year is identical to a player like Dylan Moore, who we've lauded for a couple of years. He's been, really impactful, Dylan Moore.
He's down on form himself at the moment.
Yeah. So he's going quite well. Inside of 450, that's quite young at the moment with, the likes of Kako, Caddy, Hobbs inside there. But this guy is just going along quite nicely at the moment.
For ball use number 4 there, let's have a look at his goal markets as well, because it's hard to find. Sometimes when the market finds him, and I don't think the market entirely there, Kate, has found Archie Perkins from what we're hearing here with 2+ and 3+ goals.
Yeah, I think when sort of people are talking Essendon goals, they're probably not looking towards Archie Perkins, but our man Hoyney's just told us that is a perfectly viable option because he has good ball use, he gets on the end of a few, but he also works up. And sometimes when you have a small forward that works all the way up, they don't account for them when they're working back towards goal. And that's how Dylan Moore does score a lot of his goals when he is firing. So I like that for Archie Perkins. Good pick up.
Good looking dude, a bit like yourself, Zach.
Yeah, and that is what I base my bets on. So you'll see me leaning into Archie Perkins.
It's an awfully simple algorithm over there with him.
Far more successful than yours, Felix.
It's true. Yeah. Someone who went 0-4.
Look good, play good.
Yeah,
that's it. Hoyney speaks, Von Hoff listens. Toby Green at the moment now hasn't quite had, after a very, very strong start in round 0, we haven't quite seen that from him, but he likes to play at the Cattery.
Yeah, no, we haven't. But this week is an opponent who he has dined out on for years. So this is his last 4 games just at GMHBA. And the Giants have won all 4 of those games down there, and it is been off the back of what this individual has done against Geelong for the last 4 or 5 years. The matchup that Geelong have had, it's varied at times. They haven't had a consistent matchup to go against him. So whether that's going to be someone like a Zach Guthrie or whoever it might be this week, they're going to have their hands full because what he's done down there over the last couple of years has been significant.
You play with a lot of them. Who do you think gets him this week?
I think they're gearing Oisin Mullen to be this kind of lockdown guy. We saw him go to Nick Dacos last week. This is what he did back home. This is what he played his trade at for a good number of years back home, is locking down. He did a pretty good job, I think, when you look at last week's game in its entirety on Nick Dacos, despite the fact he still found a bit of the ball. I'd be surprised if he wasn't given green this week.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial for Geelong to actually, shut him down because outside of Toby Green at the moment, for what Geelong actually have to worry about, their clearance game is horrendous at the moment. GWS, their ball movement game is poor, so they are going to have to rely on some individuals to actually have a standout game, and that is absolutely Chris Scott's number 1 concern this week.
There's something about antagonists playing at the Cattery. Jake Stringy, you mentioned off air, Kate, does really well there, and Toby Green as well. It's like they relish that environment with everyone against them in there. Let's talk about Jason Horne-Francis, because he's always in the media, whether it be good or bad. He always comes under the spotlight. Where do you see his game at the moment?
I think we all just assume that this guy is an out-and-out star of our competition at the moment, but the reality is that, in his 3 years at Port Adelaide, he hasn't found himself rated inside the top 100 players in the competition, and currently at the moment, he's 124th in the competition. He's playing 85% midfield time as well, so you would assume that, he's going to be finding more of the footy than what he does, but at the moment, his midfield profile of, 24 disposals, sort of that 10 contested possessions, 5 score involvements, is just an average profile for a midfielder. And I just wonder whether or not, Ken Hinkley is looking at this going, how do we unlock this a little bit more? Does he potentially play a little bit more forward time? Because are we actually getting bang for buck at the moment with Jason playing 85% of his game time as a midfielder?
I enjoy the way you deliver your little drive-bys too, Hoyney. They're like, you hide behind the stats, this is his ranking, this is it. Is he really that good? That's very nice from you. Just a little nudge, maybe he's not as good as people think, and these are the numbers that support it. It's not personal, it's numbers. Well done,
I'm going to let the numbers do the talking. Is 85% his highest midfield time the last 3 years?
Correct. Yeah, correct. So we saw him at stages last year when they actually got on a bit of a run towards the back end of the year, that he was almost getting close to that 50-50 midfield forward time, and he looks so dangerous inside the forward 50. I just wonder whether or not they're going to go back to that over the coming weeks.
Anyone else you want to clip? You clipped Jordan Dawson last week and he came back and kicked 3 goals.
We clip an individual each week just quite nicely, but it's just, we'll come to the table next week.
Is there an element with Horne-Franics though as well, when you look at the data and the numbers, that he is a bit of a big game player at times, and he does, while he only has 5 score involvements, they do usually seem to come at big moments. So there's some players that sort of, maybe the numbers and the ranking doesn't quite add up, but it's the moments in which they do it. Joe Danaher was a perfect example where he was always popping up in the fourth quarter of big moments.
Don't doubt Hoyney and what he's saying, mate.
And I
Don't
think
try, don't let rose-coloured glasses, all right?
The difference between that, though, is when you've got a bona fide midfielder that goes through there, that plays big time, 85%, you kind of need a little bit more output from them. Small forwards, tall forwards, sometimes the supply in games is really limited. So if you have 6 touches and you kick 3 goals, you're worth your weight. But if you're a midfielder that's numbers are down, you're having a little bit of impact, but only popping up in really important moments. Yes, that's huge, and big game players are very important. You probably want a little bit more output from your midfielders.
The good things he does stand out because he's such a bull and he's so explosive. He's Dangerfield-esque, and when he does something, it's like you really remember it. But as Hoyney says, he's no good.
Hoyney, before we go to the break, finish
straight to the point.
Hoyney, before we go to the break, finish the quote for me. I'll stop mentioning history when
I'll back history until history changes.
There we go. I butchered it.
Did you butcher that?
I did butcher it. We'll be back after the break and I'll give myself a clip. Welcome back to In the Back Pocket. Game of the round here. 2 powerhouses of the league having a great season so far. Richmond and West Coast. They should be able to pack this one out, Brownie.
Huge opportunity for Richmond. So they've won 2 games so far. And I see what you're doing there, Felix. You're making fun of this game. But I am invested in this game, in the disposal. So I want to pick up a stat about the West Coast Eagles. So they are the worst side at getting the football in the midfield. So they rank 18th. But they're the second worst side at defending the football in the midfield. So I can only go for Richmond players here, and Timmy Taranto, my best bet at 30 plus.
Love it. They can't move it and they can't defend it. I'm going to be absolutely zoned in on this one, but Taranto, very, very good player. I hope he hits that one as well. Let's jump over to Geelong and GWS and have a look at the watchability and puntability here. Where are you sitting, Brownie?
Puntability is a B-. It was very, very close to a C+. But there's just a few players I'm not sure of, and Bailey Smith, as you pointed out, is one of those. Does he get tagged this weekend? So just a little bit of a change of the guard going forward with Danger. There's not allowed guys like Stengel to kick goals and who I'd normally punt on, and Ollie Henry, who I've been keen on the last 2 years. So a B-.
Just as an ex-teacher, there's nothing really the difference between a C+ and a B-. It's just whether you like the kid or not.
I asked that when I was doing it yesterday.
Yeah, I must not have been well right because I didn't see too many on mine. Zach, the Giants' little drop-off here, this little slump that they're in, what do you put it down to?
Yeah, they've been really impressive at different stages of the year, but just the last few weeks, they haven't looked anywhere near as potent as we know they can look. They're getting beaten up around clearance and they're really struggling to move the footy from back half. That's a terrible combination now. It might be a good time for him to go to Geelong. It's a ground they played particularly well at, but this is not the best version of GWS. And I think Geelong are slowly building into the year. I actually think Geelong haven't really fired a shot for what they're capable of this year. So it's going to be an interesting watch, but I think Cats will get the job done.
Geelong rarely get beaten down there. It is a fortress, but the Giants have been able to beat them the last 4 times. Why?
Oh, they outscored them. Yeah, by the end of the game, they keep tallying up the points.
Game structure.
They keep tallying up the points. No, they played really well. They're a good contested side, GWS, and we touched on Toby Green earlier. I played a couple of games down there where he took the game away, and momentum for large parts was with Geelong, but they held up really well in the back half. But this, as I said, is not that version of GWS. I still think they're more than capable of going down and getting a result, but based on where both teams are at right now, I'd be surprised if Geelong didn't win.
Okay, Jake Stringer started as the sub last week, still kicked 3. What are you going to see from him this week?
Yeah, well, I think we have a little bit of a vibe each week. I've got a vibe about Jake Stringer. Do we trust him? No, absolutely not. I think we all agree on that. There's nothing to trust about his football
the vibe sounds
on the football field,
okay.
Week in, week out. I think you never know what you're going to get with Jake Stringer. But he started as the sub. He played less than a half for them, and he kicked 3. And to me, he has good form against the Cats. He averages just over 2 goals, and 3 of his last games at GMHBA, he's kicked 9. I think he's the type of player that when people write him off or have backs against the wall, he got a little bit of a clip last week being told that he was starting at the sub. So he went out, lit it up with 3 goals. So I think he does the same this week, but I've got him for 2+ just because of that trust element. What do you guys think?
He's been inaccurate in front of goal. He's actually had a lot of shots at goal. So if he straightens up, and you're right, when he's back against the wall, historically he does well. Loves a contract year, the Stringer. I don't think this is one of them, but tends to perform well when his career's on the line. So yeah, I like it. I think he's more than capable of hitting that mark.
Yeah, I couldn't talk anyone out of that. 2 goals I'm happy with. He's a good enough player to be able to kick 2 goals every time he goes out there and plays.
Inaccurate, can't trust him, but we're backing him in for the
got
goals.
the vibe
This
check,
is why we do
check.
the vibe. The
Yep.
vibe
Yep.
check. Let's see how this one rolls out as well.
We're punters.
North Melbourne taking on Brisbane. Now, I reckon the line is a little bit favourable to North Melbourne in this one. It's sitting around that 30-point line, 34.5. That surprises me a bit, I think.
Do you think
I think
Brisbane won't get outside that?
No, I think Brisbane will get outside of that. I think that's flattering North Melbourne.
Yeah, at some point they're going to put together a nice game, North Melbourne, like they did against Melbourne. Not sure whether it's... But the game is in Tasmania, where they have played OK football in the past. So that's the one thing that's good for them down there this weekend.
The Lions have struggled in Tassie as well. A lot of times up against the Hawks in Tassie. They don't tend to like the conditions as much. And they do have this sort of inability to really put teams away. So I don't know, the 34.5, if North Melbourne can put everything together, they might be a chance at covering that.
Here's a couple of interesting stats around North Melbourne. So they're pretty ordinary at defending the ball through the midfield. So we just saw that West Coast are number 18. They are ranked number 16. But interesting fact is they rank number 1 at not allowing disposals to halfback flankers. So normally I'd back Dane Zorko in a game like this. I'd go, he's playing North Melbourne, he should be able to stat up. But I'm going to step around Dane Zorko, and knowing that they're number 16 to midfielders, who can I trust at the Brisbane Lions? It's Lockie Neal. Last 5 games have been outstanding, as we know. His last 500 games have been outstanding, but he's a damn good player, and I'm expecting him to get 30 disposals against the North Melbourne outfit that doesn't tag.
He's broken the game's record,
Yep.
500.
Yep, and he's had 30 every game.
That's a big
500 halves.
I went a little bit big on 500. Maybe I should have said the last 50.
Levi Ashcroft, an interesting one for me, because we always hear when there's a younger brother coming through, a la Josh and Nick Dacos, that, the younger brother's better. He's going to be better. But from what we're seeing from Levi Ashcroft, and this is a real compliment to him because Will Ashcroft is very, very good, there's a real chance that he's going to come through in a couple of years and be better than his brother.
I think lately he's probably put together games that impact a little bit more. I know that Will Ashcroft won the Ashcroft medal last week, but I would say up until that point, he's probably had a little bit more impact on games. So the rising star market, $3 for him, I think a lot of people are considering that other players are emerging, but I think the thing that they need to consider is he got a gig round 1 for the reigning premiers in his first year. He has impacted that much and been able to put his foot forward to the coaching staff and to the group in Brisbane to hold on to that spot as well. I think the only other one sort of for me is Murphy Reid or O'Sullivan at Geelong. Apart from those two, I know that other people are big on other players, but I think what he's been able to achieve in the team that he's in shows to me that he's potentially the best young player in the competition.
He came in with a big reputation straight off the bat before he'd even played a game. So I think the fact that he's performing well, a lot of people are probably a little bit guilty of going, we expected it. We knew this would happen. We've seen his brother do it. I'm with you. I think he's been extraordinary.
I'll ask you a question. You're building a side, both of you, right now, and you have to take a pick between Connor O'Sullivan and Levi Ashcroft. Who are you going to take?
Sully, my former teammate.
Well, I'll go Ashcroft then.
Yeah.
What about on that same sort of line of thinking? Nick Dacos, Josh Dacos, in the prime of their careers, because Levi's a lot younger at the moment, so let's push him 5-6 years from now. or the Ashcroft boys, which set of brothers are you taking in their prime to any team?
Dacos.
Yeah.
You got Nick. You got the winner.
I probably need to take Nick, but if I was ordering them, it might be Nick, Ashcroft's.
But if you throw the dads in, I'm taking the Dacoses as well.
Jeez,
Any other family members we can draft?
Yeah. I'm sure there's some grandparents.
Well, sister as well, who's going to play for the Lions. You would think she's very highly touted, so she might be better than the other two.
Time for an impromptu quick hands. A couple of questions that were discussed outside of here. I want to see you guys discuss them here. Should kick-ins be counted as disposals?
No, I don't think they should be. Too easy and they inflate your stats, so get rid of them.
No, I like him. Made a career off him. All for him.
Yeah, some people find it hard to find the footy. We need all the help we can get.
I was about to say, I had a feeling where that one was heading as well. This one's for you, Kate, because I know you have some opinions on this. Should Brisbane have more primetime games? The reigning premiers, they're clearly going to go into this year winning, but they seem to have been dudded with a few of the time slots.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see the new rollout of the fixture, which is coming up quite soon. I think we'd expect that. I think they'll be playing a number of Thursday, Friday night primetime fixtures.
Can you refer to a team as we if you support them? As a supporter?
No, you cannot.
Why not?
Because they're not your team. You're not playing for them. You're not part of what they're building. You are a supporter. You say Sydney.
It's nice to know how Browny thought of all his fans over those years that supported him, thought he was one of them, thought he was one of their brothers, and you just treated them with utter disdain.
They're one of us, but you don't say we.
Oh, wow. Okay, can I wear my jersey to the footy still?
I've got no idea. I've got no real thought on it at all. You asked me, and I threw the first thing that came into my head.
What's your best bet for the Sunday?
Okay, my best bet is Tim Taranto. I gave you the stats around West Coast through the midfield, and I think that he is going to load up. He's going to have 30 possessions.
Nice way to barrel the camera on that one. Kate, where are you sitting?
Zach Bailey. So North, their ability to defend general forwards, they're ranked 18th. They give up the most goals to general forwards. The player I'm looking at, Zach Bailey, forward 2+. He's kicked 15 goals this season. He was goalless last week, so I think he bounces back.
Zach Guthrie, he's 20 plus I've got him for. He averages just about 20 for the season, but his 2 games that he's played at GMHBA, he's over 25, so I fancy him to clear 20 comfortably down in Geelong.
Have you taken the under on any of your ex-teammates so far on this program?
I've got significantly more wins than you on this show. I shan't be critiqued by Mr. Van Hoff.
Just shan't. Well, there we go. Fantastic use. Maybe an Irish word. I know. Tim Taranto, Zach Bailey, Zach Guthrie, double Zach in this one, and at Brisbane. I still think that line, and we all agree that line is very favourable towards North Melbourne at 34.5.
I still think there's a chance they cover it.
Geez, I'm 0 for 3 in throwing things out of the panel, aren't I? I'll just pack it all up. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you follow this show and these people on the feed. Enjoy the weekend.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.